As I'm sitting here, while standing now, midday, so the fire is active within, alive within, and always is. But a couple thoughts came to mind that I'd like to share with you. They arose in consciousness, out of a blank canvas, a blank state. And as I work here now, working for the state, I happen to be on break. And yes, I'm intentionally rhyming. It's only by grace. Anyways, the thoughts that arose have to do with the fire within. We all have a fire within, right? As it's reflected without in the form of the sunlight. And this fire within, you could say, is the source of the label, the word, enlightenment. And that's within us. It's a certain intelligence, that which animates all of this. And allows us to feel that profound sense of connectedness. And as I was sitting, meditating, you can give it that label, right? With that intense sense of focus, and yet undisturbed, undiminished calmness. I want to share this because within that calmness, some people might mistake or misconstrue, confuse simplicity and tranquility with passivity. But as I was sitting there in complete and utter serenity and in that calmness, there was still that intense sense of aliveness, of fire. Because one can be calm, and yet with an intense intensity, on fire with calmness. But collectively, humanity, if the collective output of our intelligence is constantly directed outwardly into the worldly, if the mind is full of desires and how I want to serve this one, me, instead of realizing that sense of connectivity with the world around us, and thus serenity and bliss, because there's no sense of separateness. When we feel that aliveness within us, naturally, there's that sense of connectedness and bliss, because there's the awareness of actually being all things. I am this, whatever's happening around me. And there's absolute non-resistance and contentment in every circumstance, because nothing can faze this, because this is not separate from that. You might just scratch your head and, wow, this one's appearing funny today. This one's putting on a good show. Do they not realize it's a dream? Not realize it's a grand act that we're all a part of simultaneously? You can be in that meditative state with our eyes open or closed. That sense of connectedness is felt as we're active in outward action, or when we're intensely focused. That intenseness, the fire, the calmness within. Because the masculine and the feminine are operating at full force and in proper balance within us. Our vital waters within are not wasted and constantly outwardly directed. Because we conserve and preserve this powerful life force within us. Sacred feminine water, as it's connected with the fire. And when they're fully alive and awake within us, then naturally that energy rises to the heart space. And there's a profound sense of openness, an expanded awareness, and joy, profound lovingness, and thankfulness for one's own existence, for one's own life, which is not felt as being separate from all of life, all living beings, whether it be the ants in my pants as I was sitting on the ground, you know, maybe competing for the attention. Something nips you or bites you, and you kind of brought back outwardly to focus on the body. But you can instantly turn that awareness, that attention, back inwardly. Because there's that constant bliss. There's bliss of transcendence. Because sufficient energy has accumulated into those higher centers, into the chakras. What's up, brother? Making a video. I'm on break. And as this energy arises within us into the higher spheres, because our attention, our awareness is focused inwardly, that light is not constantly drained in the worldly. You know, there's a lot of forces in this world that operate solely on negativity, and they wish to drain your energy. Now, I'm not one to speak negatively, but this is the truth. The truth is that the source of heaven is within you, and this source is sought, as I just recently thought earlier in the video about the collective output of our intelligence, humanity. Most of us are focused outwardly, and there's certain forces in the world that wish to capture and use that energy, your attention, to profit off it. You can call these forces demonic, whatever the label, it doesn't matter. I don't want to stimulate something in your head by using a certain label that might be different from what you think of it. Because the word is not the point. The point is that you don't want your energy to be drained. You want that to build up within you. You want to conserve it and become a powerhouse of energy, not because you have your own personal selfish interest in mind. Of course, we all, for being honest, have a certain self-interest, but when that self-interest is not based on a sense of separateness, you want the best for yourself because you realize you're connected with everything else. You realize, wow, what's best for this one is naturally best for that one. And as I rise in frequency and energy and uplift my vibration, I'm affecting the world in a powerful way through purification. As this one is rejuvenated, regeneration, naturally that affects all of humanity. Because we want to realize that this is the temple of God. We don't want to look up in the sky and think God is something out there and wonder why. We don't want to be stuck in the mind, in the realm of reason. Reason is great, but we want it to be operating in balance with the life force within us. You don't want to be stuck in the head constantly. And as we preserve our energy, this life force builds within us. Naturally, there's a constant focus, even with the eyes open. The energy is felt as stemming from within and illuminates everything without. And thus there's no difference between within and without. It can be hard to describe when you're in a certain state because it's beyond the intellect, it's beyond the mind. The attention is not focused on the details of what's around, and you can go in and out between peripheral vision, which is kind of encompassing everything, that expanded awareness, a sense of beingness, being all things, or it can be focused on one thing. Intense sense of focus is attention is like light, right? It illuminates everything around, and when that energy builds within us, it uplifts everything around. You can call it divine attention. Divine attention, when simply by observing, you're uplifting the world around. Because the energy within you is profound. Because you've lived consciously and righteously. Righteously not in a sense of vanity, but in a sense of preserving your vitality, your life force. Righteousness not in the sense of, I am better than this. I'm doing this, and this person's not doing that, and thus I'm better. No, we're not thinking in terms of competition. We're not thinking in terms of, I'm better than this one. And it's not because we're above praise and blame and because we're above duality as a personality, but because naturally that is our natural way of being. It's not that we try to be that way. It's that we've removed sufficient barriers and obstacles. We've removed clouds so that the sun, which is always there, the source within, reveals itself. It just like thoughts. When you're in that kind of blank bliss canvas state, thoughts can arise in consciousness. Where'd that come from? It's not mine. It's impersonal, right? I don't own it. It seemed to come from nowhere. But that knowingness arises. Well, it is always there. It doesn't even arise. It's not like a thought that comes and goes because the knowingness is constant. It's that constant awareness, which is not sought, but it's simply realized when recognized, when the clouds are removed, when that negativity is transcended, when that energy, which for a lot of us, a lot of humanity, is accumulated in the lower chakras predominantly, when too much energy is stored down there and doesn't have a chance to rise within us, then there's a sense of being trapped. We are being bound to the world. But we want to free ourselves. We want to free that energy within us, and allow it to rise up the spine, and thus realize that we truly are divine, that we're transcendent to time, that bliss is always with us. It's not something that we have to seek. It's something that's constant, like awareness. Of course, we're not thoughts, because what is aware of the thoughts? That's you. The real you is what's aware of the thoughts, that subjective awareness. That's the constant. That's that I amness. And within that, when we realize that is us, and the source of light, and we focus within, and allow that to build up within, through concentration, and the energy concentrates within us, and the bliss builds, because we feel filled, whole, complete, right where we need to be. You say, Lord, I accept every single blessing you bestow upon me, which is constant. It's happening constantly. This world is a blessing. And when you open the heart, there's that openness, as that energy rises within us. We realize that sense of constantness, a state of blessedness, thanksgiving for all of life, all that is living. Because what is God? And I don't like to necessarily use that word, because, again, it could potentially stimulate something in somebody's mind who has preconceived notions and biases and beliefs surrounding that word, and thinking that reality is the word. And I see that over there and call it a tree. A lot of humanity doesn't realize that that is not actually a tree. The word is simply pointing at something in reality, in physical reality. But tree is actually a profound energy. It's an alive energy. And you can actually get in tune with that if you go and hug it. Realize, wow, the life force within this is strong, it's powerful. This is big. This is a lot in terms of linear temporal time. This is a lot bigger than me. It's been here before I was in this body, and long after I'm gone in this body. But the essence is fundamentally the same. There's no sense of separateness. I hug trees publicly. I'm not ashamed. I'm free to be who I want to be, who I naturally am. Because I'm not identified with the body. There's no sense of separateness. There's 3 birds. I don't know if you can see them. Probably. But, yeah, the Lord speaks to you in many ways. Signs and synchronicities. Divinity is constantly speaking through us, through humanity, simultaneously. You're showing signs every day. And 3 birds. 3 white birds represent purity. Holy Trinity. God, divinity in me. And I say me. I'm not talking about a me as a separate identity. I'm talking about the me, the source, the intelligence, which animates all of us. That is us. We call infinite intelligence. It's not bound by anything. This world, of course, it functions as all of us in this world. And this world has meaning and value. There's a reason why you're here, which may be different from the reason why I'm here, at least individually. But fundamentally, we're all on the same spiritual journey subjectively, which is to realize that source within us. To realize that God, as I look down, is simultaneously in and on the ground, and within everything without. Full enlightenment is ultimately all of our ultimate spiritual goal, whether we consciously realize it or not. For energy is constantly trapped in the lower chakras, the lower energy centers of the spine. Then there's that sense of time. There's that sense of living life in a circle, in a cycle, in an endless loop. But we can transcend that loop and transcend that sense of temporal time and realize again that we are truly divine. Something that's timeless, formless, beyond all form, beyond all content, beyond all physicality. Because we're context. And it's in that sense of context where we can exist as that expanded awareness, where there's no identification with form, with content, with physical matter, but rather with the essence of the physical substance. There's always peace. Nothing can affect that. Nothing can affect our inner peace. Even during intense physical activity, it may appear that way outwardly. This person is running. There may appear to be chaos in the world, but within, there's still that profound sense of calmness, silence, and stillness, and bliss, even amidst worldly activity. One could be said to be living on two planes, realms, dimensions simultaneously. Or in the world, but not of it, right? Because they realize that their true identity is eternity. There's no identification with limitation, with sensory gratification. No identification with the boundary or with a separate body. Because consciousness is realized to be our true identity. There's only two things in this universe: consciousness and energy. And naturally, when our energy arises in direct proportion, our consciousness expands. There's that expanded sense of awareness and openness and receptivity. connectedness with all of humanity. And thus, there's no desire to want to just gratify this, as if this is separate. Because all the senses that relate to the world around us, that are a function of consciousness within the body doesn't enjoy eating, because actually tasting, we can say, one of the senses, is a function of consciousness itself. And when there's no identification with the five senses, then those senses are used in service of that which you can say infinite intelligence, that which is all around us. You can give it many different labels. I don't want to get hung up on the label. I want to see beyond words. What are the words pointing at? Words are simply a form of service, communication, a carrier wave of information, of energy. The self-same energy, which is within you, me, the tree, and all of humanity. The bird, the bee, whatever it may be. Even the seemingly lowliest mortal is a powerhouse of divinity. They just might not consciously realize it. So there's some of us in the world that our purpose is to help them realize that, to wake that up within them, to plant those seeds of light. In fact, I'm not planting anything, right? It's already within them. You just gotta awaken it. It's like words pointing at something in the world. That's the word's purpose, to point. And one's purpose could be to be like a word, to point at something within somebody else by being the example, and to awaken that within them. And I just gotta notice the battery's low, at least on the phone. But the inner battery is supercharged. I want to think in terms of energy, electricity. And allow the energy to rise so that we can operate at a higher frequency perpetually, and thus be happy. Because our happiness is not dictated by anything around us. Whatever situation or circumstance, again, that has nothing to do with your inner peace. That can't hinder or affect your inner peace. You can't be intimidated, controlled, threatened. Because you've realized the truth of who, and actually of what you are. I know you feel this. I know you know this.